Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome or welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today we're making lobster tails. Now, need I say more? Lobster tails cooked to perfection with a delicious basting recipe. Now listen to me when I say this, try this recipe on your next date night. So, let's get started.
Alright, let's get right into this recipe. In a medium-sized bowl, we want to whisk together 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's been melted with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, 1 garlic clove minced, and then the juice of 1/2 lemon. Whisking all these ingredients together until they're well combined. And this creates the basting sauce we're going to use for the lobster tails.
Hey everybody, just wanted to drop in real quick to say I appreciate you all watching the video thus far. I hope you're enjoying it. And if you are, make sure you smash that like button for me. It'll really help boost this video's and YouTube's algorithm so that more people can see this recipe. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when my next video drops. And stay tuned until the end of this video for a sneak peek of the recipe coming next week.
Alright, so if not done so already, you want to use a pair of kitchen shears to remove the legs on the underside of the lobster tails. Now depending on where you get your lobster tails from, they might already be removed. And then once you've removed all those legs, you want to break the underside ribs or the belly of the tail to allow the meat to easily free from it. So you want to take some pressure and break the connections on the underside or the belly of the lobster tails. Now flipping the lobster tail again so that the top is facing you, you want to use your kitchen shears to cut a straight line down the top side of the lobster all the way down to its tail. You want to gently split the lobster shell away from the meat and press the meat attached to the belly of the lobster tail up out of the shell so that it now rests on top of the shell. And that really helps by sliding your finger in the underside or the belly of the shell to start to loosen that lobster meat from it. You want to be very gentle throughout this whole process as you don't want your lobster meat to rip. And I definitely recommend using a pair of powder-free nitrile gloves for this process, as you're going to be basting these lobster tails and that part can get a little bit messy. But certain parts of the lobster meat may be attached more tightly than others. So like I said before, just take your time in removing this from the shell with your goal of pushing the meat onto the top side of the lobster tail. This part of the recipe is probably the most challenging, but once you get through that, I'm telling you the rest is a complete breeze. And so your end goal is to have your lobster tail look like this. And you want to repeat these steps for your remaining lobster tails. In this case, I'm using 2 large lobster tails, but the ingredients in this recipe can also work for using 4 smaller lobster tails as well. And using 4 smaller lobster tails is definitely better as far as price point is concerned, so feel free to do whatever one works for you. But for this video, I would say the theme of this is for a great date night, so you're ended up with 2 big lobster tails that should look like this. And now that your lobster tails have been prepared, to the top of them, we want to add on a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and a 1/4 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, rubbing all of these ingredients into the meat of the lobster, making sure you don't forget the inside of the lobster meat as well. Now, prior to basting the lobsters, you want to reserve about 3 tablespoons worth of the sauce. And with the remaining sauce, we want to brush the top and the bottom of the lobster meat. And it's definitely important not to skip brushing the bottom of the lobster meat as well. We want to ensure that every ounce of this lobster tail gets that great basting flavor. So be generous when applying that basting sauce and have fun with it. You then want to transfer your lobster tails to a baking sheet, and I like to prepare mine with a sheet of parchment paper. And you want to bake these for 15 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius. And the lobster tails, by the end of it, will turn bright red and the meat will turn white. And while these are baking, this is the perfect time to prepare your chopped parsley. So you want to take some fresh parsley and, using a chef's knife, just break it down into fine little pieces. Now that our baking time is up, you want to remove your lobster tails from the oven, and as a final touch, we want to baste the lobsters once more with that reserved 3 tablespoons worth of the basting sauce, as well as garnishing it with that freshly chopped parsley. And just like that, you've made lobster tails right at home. Truly a great way to show your appreciation for your loved ones, or if it's one of those days where you have to treat yourself. Either way you go, I guarantee you this lobster tail is going to be delicious. And one more tip I can give when it comes to separating lobster meat from the tail is that it doesn't require much force. You should be able to do it with your index finger and your thumb, applying a light pressure with your fingers to separate the meat from the top side and the underside of the lobster tail.
As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 3, Upgrading Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. And feel free to click the pop-up on your screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe, and if you did, make sure to smash that like button for me. It's one of the best ways to help out the channel and show your support. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Victor, and welcome to Chef Vic Cuisine. I like to create new recipes each and every week for you to make at home for yourself, your family, or your friends. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to click that subscribe button too. And sharing is caring, so if you think someone else will enjoy this recipe just as much as you did, feel free to share this with all your family and friends.
And stay tuned for next week where we go over how to make this amazing Spanish cuisine, paella. You're not going to want to miss this one. Thank you all so much for watching again. It really means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out more recipes on my page now. YouTube recommends that you'll like this video, so let's see if they're right. And I'll see you all next time on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine. And until then, peace.